I'm running away from my fiancé and our future together because I'm child-free, and I think he was trying to get me pregnant. Posted by you/childfree runaway. I, 26F, have always known I didn't want kids. From a young age, even when adults asked me how many kids I wanted, my answer was always none. I didn't even know what child-free meant, but I always was. As I got older, I realized what it was. I just didn't feel that unconditional love that's supposed to come with having children. Could I love a child? What if I can't be a mother because I don't know what that kind of love feels like? That's how I've spent my whole life. Then I met my fiancé, 34M, 2 years ago. He was my first everything, and I finally experienced romantic love. But when it came to kids, I still knew I couldn't do it. From the beginning, I told him that having kids was off the table. He said he was fine with that because he never really liked kids, so it wasn't a problem for him. 5 months ago, he proposed, and I said yes. We moved in together, and everything was perfect. We were planning our wedding slowly, no rush. That was until his sister had a baby 2 months ago. My fiancé instantly fell in love with his nephew and was there every step of the way. He bathed him, changed him, napped with him. It seemed normal, I guess, so I didn't mind. 3 weeks ago, we went to his sister's house for lunch. My fiancé was mowing her lawn when she asked me to watch the baby for a couple of minutes. I tried to refuse, but she looked so down that I agreed. I thought she would just put him in his stroller or something, but she plopped him into my arms and went upstairs. I panicked. I had never held such a small baby before, and I was terrified I might drop him. 5 minutes in, he started crying. At first, it was fine, but then he started screaming at the top of his lungs. How can such a tiny baby be so loud? I was almost in tears myself. I stood up as gently as I could and went outside where my fiancé was. I yelled at him to come grab the baby from me. He came over, took a picture of me holding the baby, and instead of taking him from me, he started giving me tips on how to calm him down. He pushed the baby closer to my chest and said, "He really suits you." I was on the verge of a panic attack. My hands were trembling, and I was even more scared to drop him. I yelled, "If you don't grab him, I'm putting him on the floor." He got angry, called me a bitch, and grabbed the baby. I couldn't handle it anymore, so I took an Uber home. He came home around midnight, showered, and went to sleep on the couch. The next morning, he was already gone when I woke up, and he didn't come home until 3 a.m. I told him we needed to talk, but he just said, "Tomorrow," and went back to the couch. The next day, when I came home from work, he was waiting for me. We sat down, and he apologized for how he reacted, saying he didn't know what got into him. I asked the question I already knew the answer to. Me, do you want to have kids now? Him, I don't know. I just love him so much, you know? Me, well, that's normal, isn't it? Him, I guess. But do you really feel that strongly against having kids? You don't even have to get pregnant or give birth, we can adopt. I talked about how scary pregnancy and childbirth were for me, especially because of how hard it was for my mom. She'd almost died giving birth to me due to complications, and she had to have an emergency hysterectomy. Me, that's not the only reason, and you know that. You know how I feel about not knowing if I could love a kid unconditionally. Him, I know, but you learn to love me, right? You can love a child too. Listen, we don't have to agree on this now. We can get married first and then revisit it. Please don't shut it down immediately. Then he started to cry and hugged me, so I dropped it. But deep down, I knew I couldn't be a mom. I know myself, and honestly, I felt betrayed by him. I thought I'd eventually start resenting him, but I hoped we could get past this. Then he started doing some strange things. He changed his wallpaper to a picture of me holding a baby, he started calling me mama, he wanted to start having unprotected sex, and he even began touching my belly when he thought I was asleep. I have fertility issues that I've never treated because what was the point? My period is irregular but mostly pain-free, so I never bothered to do anything about it. But when he suggested I go to the doctor to see what's going on with that, I panicked. It felt like he was trying to get me pregnant, and termination is still illegal in the country we're living in. So I left. I told him my mom fell in the shower and broke her leg, a lie, and that I wanted to stay with her for a couple of days to make sure she was okay. He said that was fine, and I waited for him to go to work. Then I grabbed important documents, some clothes, sentimental things, my dog, and I left. I don't know if what I did was right. I'm starting to doubt myself. Maybe he just wanted me to be healthy. Maybe he was just cuddling me or just liked that picture. But I can't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He hasn't realized that I left for good. He just questioned why I took the dog, jokingly. I didn't tell anyone, I just told my mom I missed her. Maybe I should go back and pretend everything's okay, but But something about him feels off now, and I just don't know it anymore. I'm sorry if this is all over the place and extremely long. I just can't talk to anyone about this, and it's eating me alive. I probably left some things out of context, so sorry about that too. Relevant comments. Commenter. I'm so glad you did this. The number of stories on subs like this of, mostly, women who ignore signs like this and end up in extremely dangerous situations with even less ability to escape is very depressing. This guy is very selfish, and he clearly had no intention of loving the person you are. He loved the version of you that he was going to force you to be, including being a mother. At some point, he is going to figure out that you have left, and he is going to do literally anything he can to try to convince you to come back. But any promises he makes, like saying he will be fine with not having kids, are going to be a lie. If you go back, he will either change his mind and try to wear you down until you agree to have kids, or he will hold it against you and use it to guilt trip you anytime there is a disagreement. The key here is to stick to something that he can't argue with. Don't talk about how he made you hold the baby or even the way he tried to gaslight you. If you have to talk to him, just say something like, "You clearly want kids, and I don't, and we should both find people who want the same kind of future." Your goal, if you are talking to him, should not be to get him to understand that he is wrong. He will never do that. He is a narcissistic person. People like him are genuinely not capable of accepting fault. Your goal is to get him to move on so he doesn't become a stalker or something. Ops response. Luckily, he has never been to my home country. He has a super demanding job, so he doesn't even take vacations, making it nearly impossible for him to find me. Even if he tries, I'm not even in the capital or near it. Update 10 days later. So, I'm going to try to make this as chronologically accurate and concise as possible. If something is unclear, I'll clarify in the comments. The first thing I did after my last post was get a blood pregnancy test. It was negative. That night, I also spoke to my mom. I wasn't comfortable sharing every single detail, so I left some things out, but she told me she supports me and that I can stay with her for as long as I need. I also talked to my sisters. They admitted they never liked the idea of me dating someone so much older, but they didn't want to push me because they know me. If they did, I'd probably get angry, distance myself, and become even more dependent on him. I apologized for overreacting to everything and assured them that they should never hesitate to tell me if something feels weird or wrong. I called my boss and gave him a more family-friendly version of the story. He was absolutely livid, not only with him but also with me for not telling him sooner. He's like my work dad and was the one who requested that I join him. He said he didn't bring me to a foreign country without intending to take care of me. He promised to pull some strings to get me a position at the office in my country since my former position was already filled. He also told me that if I wanted to get my things back, I could go back on a Saturday, and he would accompany me. After thinking about it, I decided to go back. It might seem silly, but I had spent a lot of money on K-pop photo cards, albums, and mangas, and I didn't want to start my collection from scratch. So, I spent a couple of days with friends and visiting family, realizing how lonely and isolated I had felt in a foreign country. Even though it's not that far from home, I knew I could never leave my family like that again. Even my dog seemed happier spending every afternoon cuddling with my mom. I also visited my father's grave. I've always hated cemeteries and avoided them, but I needed him in that moment. I went alone, brought fresh flowers, cleaned a little, and just sat there talking to him. I told him none of this would have happened if he hadn't passed away. I cried, a lot, then laughed like a crazy person. I ended up staying for about 3 hours, but it felt so healing. I also went to my mom's gynecologist, and she said it was possible to get a tubal ligation, especially considering my health issues. She warned me it could take about 6 months, but I was okay with the wait, so we started the process. I felt so free after that appointment and just so much happier being home. I didn't even think about my ex until he messaged me asking about my mom. I told him she was doing better and that I'd be back on Saturday. I decided to talk to him face to face since I was already going back to collect my things. On Friday afternoon, my sister lent me her car and I drove back. It's almost a 12-hour drive, but with breaks, it took about 14 hours. I went straight to my boss's house, and when I arrived around 9 a.m., he asked me to have breakfast with him and his family. Afterward, he and his son came with me to my ex's house to help pack up my things. I even got some of my favorite plants. They made fun of my taste in music, and we finished in about an hour and a half. Afterward, I went to my ex's sister's house. I needed to know if the whole baby incident had been a setup. I knew she didn't work on Saturdays, so I went to her house. Luckily, she was home and invited me in. We sat in awkward silence for a moment until I asked her, "Did your brother ask you to make me hold the baby?" Her, "What, huh, no, why? What even happened that day?" When I went downstairs, you weren't there, and he said you got sick and had to leave. Me, what did he tell you exactly? Her, he said you had a panic attack because of fertility issues and that holding the baby was triggering. I told him that didn't sound like you, but he said, how are you supposed to know more about my fiancé than I do? Then he left. Me, what the actual hell? Her, yeah, he even said you wanted to babysit and go to the park as a couple with a baby, but I told him he was crazy if he thought I'd let him use my baby like that. He got mad at me and didn't speak to me for a couple of days. Then I laughed and explained what actually happened. She was furious, so mad she started crying. She apologized for leaving me with the baby, and I apologized for saying I was going to put the baby on the floor, and that I wasn't actually going to do that. She said she was genuinely considering going low contact with him because his behavior was creepy, and she feared he might do something to the baby. I decided to tell her I was leaving her brother, and she said she understood. We hugged, and she said she'd miss me. I went back to my boss's house to wait for my ex to get home. I told him to text me when he got off work. I was a nervous wreck. I almost threw up. My boss's wife made me tea and stayed by my side, rubbing my back. I honestly loved that woman, the whole family, really. My boss and his son came with me to his apartment. One thing about my boss, he's a softie, but he's huge. He's 195 centimeters and about 130 kilograms, and his son is basically a carbon copy of him, so I felt pretty safe. When my ex got home, he smiled at me but then saw my boss and his son. He asked me what was going on. Me, I'm breaking up with you. You're clearly going through a baby fever phase, and I don't want any part of that. Him, what do you mean, breaking up? We can't break up. We love each other. Me, no, you love the idea of me being pregnant with your child, and that's not going to happen. He tried to hug me, but my boss grabbed his shoulder and said, why don't you sit here with me? Him, I can't lose you, I love you. You're my soulmate. I can't live without you. If you leave me, I'll die. I would rather never have kids than lose you. I'll even get a vasectomy, but please stay. What will our families think? You can't just break off the engagement like this. Me, first of all, this isn't a telenovela, so calm down. Second, I never even told my family we were engaged, and I've already told them we broke up. Him, what about the dog? You can't just take her. Me, what dog? The dog I've had since I was 17? That's my dog, and she barely tolerates you. Trust me, she's much happier with my mom. He started sobbing and tried to speak, but I couldn't understand him. My boss's son couldn't have chosen a worse moment to laugh and ask, you really didn't tell your family? Me, I just never found the right moment, you know? My ex calmed down a little and said he'd never let me go. That he still loved me. I felt a little threatened when he said something like, I'll find you and make you fall in love with me again. I told him, good luck with that, but seriously, we're not in a telenovela. Enough with the drama. I gave him the ring back, and he threw it at me, though it didn't hit me. I said, I hope you find someone who wants kids, but I also hope you get psychological help, and we left. I spent the night at my boss's house, and the next morning, I went back home. I spent the rest of Sunday sleeping because I had a bit of a fever. I helped my mom with her business today, and my therapy session is on the 13th. Due to how things went in the office, I'll start again in March. They kind of fired me, then rehired me. Thank you so much for helping me see how crazy this whole situation was. I feel so happy and so light now. I forgot how much I love having my family around. I probably won't update again unless something crazy happens, but yeah, thank you, people, especially women, of Reddit. Relevant comments. Commenter. I'm curious, is there a legal way to keep an eye on him in his country? Also, is he active on social media and does he tend to share everything, like when he gets up, walks to work, and even picks his nose? His responses are making me a bit uneasy. It seems like he's genuinely clueless about the consequences of his actions and how they've affected you. Ops response. I don't think they can really just watch him without cause, but my boss's wife advised me to go to a police station before leaving the country again to let them know I was leaving willingly, just in case. And no, he doesn't post much on social media, just big events, birthdays, anniversaries, and that kind of stuff. Also, my mom already has security cameras, so I'm feeling confident. I don't think he's just going to drop everything to follow me without even knowing where I am.